Welcome to My Business Matters, the Michigan Chamber podcast.
Hi, I'm Amanda Toy, the Michigan Chamber Vice President of Membership and Partnership, and so glad to be getting together with you all today to talk hot HR issues. We'll talk about trends and other tools that might be helping with these trends that we're all facing in the workplace today. I am so lucky to be joined here with three fantastic guests. First, Amy Mulholland here in studio. She's the Director of Learning and HR Compliance for the Michigan Chamber. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Amanda.
And John David Gardiner, Attorney and Employment Law Workplace Specialist for Bodman Law Firm. John, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And Garry Straker, he's the Vice President of Compensation Consulting for Salary.com Corporate.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Garry, thanks for joining us today. Well, we've got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. We're excited to have this conversation today because it seems like navigating change and the evolving nature of work is something that not just HR experts, but all business leaders are talking about every day. What a unique workplace climate that we are in. Many key challenges for HR teams right now. Do you think that overall the evolving change of the nature of work is the number one issue right now? Or what do you really see as the number one issue facing employers today regarding HR? Garry, let's start with you.
Sure. Well, the way I see it, not only has the nature of work evolved, but employee expectations have evolved tremendously since the pandemic. And certainly we've seen employees, leverage this perhaps, for some people, once-in-a-generation opportunity to maximize their earnings potential. So what I see is a need for employers really to focus on managing compensation in order to try to meet the expectations of employees, make sure that there is greater transparency and alignment with their pay practices and policies, with their organizational culture and values.
Yeah, and I hope that we get a chance to talk a little bit more about recruitment and retention and how that plays. So thanks for that feedback. John, as far as your expertise in employment law, what are you seeing as the number one trend when you're talking with your clients?
Sure. Great question. Change is, a constant. I think kind of two main areas, both talent attraction. So how do we hire in a very tight market? How do we attract future thought leaders? And how do we retain existing talent? So how do you avoid burnout? How do you maybe upskill, uptrain, and promote from within? And those challenges, I think, will continue to evolve and develop, but look forward to discussing those now.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy, I am seeing a trend here from Garry and John. Are we on the right track here?
We are absolutely on the right track. I would add that both pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, coming from the HR perspective, I'm always interested in the actual employee and their needs. And it's very important to understand what motivates our employees and what gives them energy. And I think the biggest challenge right now is the fact that we are primarily a hybrid workforce. Mm-hmm. And so I think the challenge is not losing sight of the fact that we really need to be close with our employees in terms of what are we doing to help support you.
Absolutely. If only we had like the magic 8-ball to talk about, what motivates you and what motivates you, because we're all motivated differently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Garry, can we talk a little bit more about compensation? So you're the VP at Salary.com. We actually have a great partnership with you for all the job reports and free to our members. But how critical can compensation be? Do you feel like there's a trend that it's more important for employees coming into the workforce and being retained? Is it less important?
Yeah, I will tell you this. I've been a compensation consultant for almost 23 years, and I've never quite seen sort of the time that we are in now in terms of the difficulty and challenges associated with administering compensation. And I think above anything else, employees really want to know that their employer has a really structured, disciplined, methodical, and consistent approach to managing pay within the organization. And I always like to say to our clients, how much you pay is really important, but how you pay can be as equally as impactful. And there's been lots of studies that have shown that if we provide our employees with more information and develop a better understanding of pay practices and policies, that in itself can lead to greater satisfaction with pay.
So, Garry, I know there's probably listeners thinking the same thing in my head. You talk about process, which makes sense, but you said how you pay. What do you mean by that?
So it's really about making sure that there is, market alignment, that you're paying attention to things like internal equity, that you are developing sort of the right mix of pay in terms of maybe base salary, incentive compensation, and perhaps other types of compensation, beyond just cash, that really are meaningful and highly valued by employees. So I think the compensation mix can involve lots of different things, and so developing an understanding of what's important, and also I think responding to the needs of a particular workforce in terms of their expectations is really important.
So we need to get more creative. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. Well, we've always needed creativity, but now more than ever.
Okay. John, so employment law attorney at an amazing firm here. As far as workplace involvement, when it comes to best practices for hiring in an extremely tight labor market, what would you say in regard to offering remote work for those employers who might have the ability to offer that option?
Absolutely. I think that's crucial now more than ever. And I think, what I always think of is you want to plan your work and work your plan. So you're going to need, at an individual position basis, you're going to need to know if the position's eligible or not for remote work. Are individuals going to fit within that remote hybrid or fully remote environment? Do the job descriptions align with what is currently happening? And then you want to put into play, whether it's on a short-term or trial basis, but a remote work policy. And then I kind of like to hearken from a different sector, which is the story brand framework. So what you want to do in terms of attracting and maintaining talent is you want to make your employees the hero in your employer environment, right? So you want to be the guide, but you want your employees to be the hero or heroine of the story. And so empowering them, making them feel part of the team, being transparent, to Gary's point, what's the total compensation for the position, right? Is it eligible or not? And if it's not for remote work, why not? And why do they want to work for you? Why do they want to stay with you? Even things as basic as a handbook can become a marketing tool, right? This is why you want to work for employer X. This is why you want to stay here long term. This is how we develop talent, and this is how we make you the hero in the everyday grind that is employment. All of us, I would assume, need to work, have to work, and so where we choose to work is the big question.
Isn't it interesting that where you can even take an employee handbook and use it as a marketing tool? I would say that's 10 points for being creative right there. I'm loving it.
We have to be.
We do.
There's zero unemployment effectively, so we've got to be creative.
Absolutely. And you touched too, John, on being part of a team. And isn't that an interesting dynamic when we're talking about hybrid or remote workers for employers who are able to consider offering that? Amy, as an HR leader, something that I continue to wonder is how do we support our team with professional development when sometimes they might not be in the office?
Mm-hmm. Well, that is a good question, Amanda. And it is a challenge. I think, once again, it goes back to figuring out what is their motivation. Is it somebody who really would like to do more online training? And micro webinars have become kind of a big thing because people can get it done in 30 minutes and still learn. But you're also seeing a trend where people are enjoying actually coming back into in-person training.
Okay.
And I think what we have to keep in mind when we talk about professional development is that training is not just professional development. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the internal hiring and what goes into that. And so I'll expand a little bit more once we get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you've kind of piqued my interest. So can you tell us a little bit more about, so you're saying that training might not necessarily be all professional development, but what other opportunities based on how an employee is motivated should we be looking at as far as making sure that they know we're investing in them?
Yeah. So if we talk about retention and recruitment, and we take those both separately, I think most of us are familiar with the quiet quitting and the quiet firing, right? Really dealing with employment disengagement and passive performance. However, The new trend right now is in quiet hiring, and this focuses basically on retention. And so, to your point, what this is really concentrating on is upskilling employees. So it's doing it through job rotations, project work, different professional development that will help them with their new position or their current position. And then there's the internal quiet hiring, and then there's external quiet hiring. And so if an organization is successful on their internal quiet hiring and giving individuals opportunities to grow within the organization, not just training, but again, job rotation as an example.
Right.
Then you have to be realistic that there are going to be some gaps in the workforce. So the trend we're seeing is hiring contract workers to fill those gaps and possibly bringing them on, because right now we have a surplus of 4.8 million jobs. So
right. Yeah, and it's interesting because even in where we're at here at the Michigan Chamber, we definitely look at opportunities to advance our team from within, right? And focusing on what they enjoy, what they're good at, right? Do they have the capacity to do it, but do they want to do it? And really excelling on their strengths so that they can enjoy themselves, which I'm assuming, not an HR hat here, but will help retain them because they really feel like they're valued because they truly are. And they're helping advance your mission, your growth. And perhaps historically that job description might have included something that either they don't have the capacity to, or they don't really want to do it to a certain extent, right? And to look at hiring that out for contract work. Yeah.
And it also goes back to succession planning too. So if you're a robust organization and you have a succession plan, it gives you the opportunity to really carry that through.
Right. And look at how maybe to morph when you bring on the next person in that seat, or maybe in a unique different seat, right? Okay, very good. Gary, I wanted to touch base with you regarding kind of what you're hearing as far as tangible tools that work best through salary.com. You offer a slew of solutions and resources, but what is speaking most to employers, HR leaders right now throughout the United States regarding recruiting employees and retaining them? Like, if we could just focus on one or two things, what would you be most excited about?
Yeah, obviously we're a software and a data company, and we think leveraging technology and data is really the key to developing successful compensation programs. And, as I said earlier, it is getting increasingly complex to be able to, monitor and manage things like internal equity and do pay equity analyses routinely, rather than once, in a blue moon. And that's really what the workforce is demanding nowadays. And so certainly leveraging technology to your best advantage so that you can administer pay consistently and fairly and credibly throughout the organization, and then leveraging the data resources. And, in our business, data is really king. So we amass a pretty vast library of HR reporting salary survey data from multiple surveys, sources, and we also conduct our own surveys, both nationally and internationally, and we combine that data with our software to really help organizations stay on the right side of getting paid right.
Yeah, it's such a competitive job market out there that I can tell you as a leader in Michigan business, I don't want to be throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping I'm picking the right salary to put on an app a job description. So it is good to be able to be results driven and not have to have that pressure on us. So I appreciate you bringing that up as a good resource. Hey, John, so regarding employment law, you do so many different great seminars. I know that we actually work with you and have an amazing partnership with the firm. And if I had $1 for any time we got a call from a member asking about an employment law issue specifically, I would have a boat. But my question for you is, what trends are you seeing in the seminars that are being requested? What are employers and clients coming to you and saying, I really need to be educated on X, Y, and Z regarding recruitment and retention?
Absolutely, man. And I think the dart at a dartboard is a great analogy in that it is always a moving target, or at least an ever-changing environment. And so when we look at just recently, within first quarter of this current calendar year, we have the FTC non-compete ban proposal. We had an ultimately blocked and tackled what would have been a significant change to employee sick time. which reverted back to Michigan paid medical, subject to a Supreme Court review if applicable. We've got the National Labor Relations Board potentially banning with retroactive effect non-disparagement and confidentiality provisions from severance agreements. We've got right to work. We've got paid medical on the state and federal level being reviewed legislatively. So there are always a lot of moving parts, but I think now more than ever, it's a great time to stay current, to stay compliant, to try and get out ahead of certain trends. And a great way to do that is to partner with a great organization like the Chamber, and perhaps it's service providers in attending or participating or reviewing seminars. You have to stay current, and it's very, very difficult to do it alone. So we go further together, and that's a great way to do it is with the resources like the on-demand seminars.
And it's so funny that you're talking about on-demand seminars because I'm sitting here with my colleague Amy, and that's one of her main seats in our organization at the Chamber is spearheading customized trainings for Michigan businesses. So Amy, can you share a little bit about what you're seeing and what the demand is for that?
Absolutely. So in addition to our vast learning opportunities here at the Chamber, such as signature events, webinars, seminars, we realize that training is not a cookie cutter approach. So we are now offering customized training. So primarily there are three main buckets that this falls in. It's leadership/professional development, team building, and assessment/succession. However, that being said, I think we need to share that we can design and develop and facilitate any type of learning event to support an organization's needs and strategy and the development of where they want to go.
Right. So not just, like employment focus, but really what's their strategy, their vision for what a successful organization looks like 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Amanda, because, a lot of most businesses do an employee engagement survey. And yes, you do see some trends. However, based on the culture of the organization and the different needs and the size, it's not a cookie cutter approach.
Yep. Okay, guys, we need to wrap up. And I can't believe these go so fast. But if you could each give me one word or one phrase that you're seeing in your seats as far as the number one issue that employers should be thinking about regarding recruitment and retention with their team, what would it be? Amy, go ahead.
Attracting younger talent who recently graduated from college and went through the COVID years, and talking with a lot of these individuals, they do not see a reason to go into a workforce or a workplace unless they're essential workers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. John.
I think using and harnessing your current talents, whether it's upskilling, whether it's using them as a referral source for new and emerging talent, but really working to keep existing talent with stay interviews, being transparent, and again, making them the hero of your organization. Without them, it gets difficult very quickly, but with them, you can go through very difficult unemployment times such as we're in currently.
Absolutely. Garry?
So our research and other studies have shown that job applicants are more likely to apply for a position if there is wage range disclosure provided in the job posting. And so what I see is organizations are going to have to do the necessary housekeeping in order to get comfortable with more pay transparency.
Okay. Well, Amy, John, Garry, I want to thank you. I'm so grateful for your time today and your expertise. Until next time, thank you for joining us on My Business Matters.
Thanks, Amanda.